Today we are going to discuss about this demo goes this way actually. I'll just discuss on the topics of Hadoop, like what is Hadoop and what is big data and what is a cluster and what is HDFS and what is MapReduce for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'll be covering what case studies this particular session will cover, because I'm telling at the first point itself that this session is purely a practical oriented session. It gives you a real-time exposure, but very less theoretical exposure it would be giving. But to compensate the theoretical measures, I'll be providing you the materials, okay? But this is totally practical driven. That's the point I wanted to make it clear at the first point. Yeah, so when I said that, what sort of case studies we'll be looking as part of this course is something which I'll be driving you through. Soon after, I give you a basic on what big data, Hadoop is, what HDFS and MapReduce is. Yep. Okay, I'll start with what is big data. Probably can anyone from your end answer what big data is and what you know about big data? Anyone from your end? Anyone? Can you answer what is big data? What you know about big data?
Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead, Lavanya.
Yeah, so big data is basically like unstructured or semi-structured data, which is like collected for analyzing or getting to know, like suppose like basically analyzing the data to get to know about the users or the consumers usage. Like usage history, like, or get to know more about it. Like companies which have like Facebook or Twitter, they have like the tweets or the feeds which they post on their stuff is how they can utilize it for improving their product more efficiently.
Great. Yes, I should say yes, most of your answer is correct. Okay, let me put my version of what big data is. Yeah, thank you so much, Lavanya.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yes, big data is collection of larger data sets, like Lavanya said, but it's in the range of petabytes, exabytes, or zettabytes, which is not in the normal range of gigabytes or megabytes. So big data is collection of larger data sets which is in the range of petabytes, exabytes, or zettabytes, but which is difficult to be stored or analyzed in RDBMS. Okay, so why did I say which is difficult to be stored or analyzed in RDBMS? Because when you look at the current trend, if you look at the Facebook per day producing 24 terabyte of data. And if you look at New York Stock Exchange, it is producing 13 to 15 terabytes of data per day. And if you look at Twitter is again producing 15 terabytes of data per day. So when these organizations are producing such huge data, yeah, where will they store? Because I know that the pace at which the data is being produced, is pretty much faster than, I would say very faster than the pace at which the storage mechanisms are being produced. Okay, I'm repeating my statement. The pace at which the data is being produced is very faster than the pace at which the storage mechanisms are being produced. So having said this, when they produce such huge data per day, and if they are using RDBMS, they have to store data in RDBMS, then they'll have to add external hard disks or tapes to store the data every day. If they keep on adding the tapes on a daily basis, probably down the lane after 1 year or so, Facebook or Twitter or New York Stock Exchange, these guys will be left with no physical space in the data center to add few more tapes, because every day they have to add tapes if they are using RDBMS for storing the data. They cannot go with the traditional way of storing the data when they are producing such huge data. Okay, so coming back to the definition of big data, I told another thing called big data is something which is difficult to be analyzed over RDBMS. What could be the reason? Simple reason is RDBMS is nothing but relational database management system. That means which will have relation between the tables. When they have relations between the tables, your joins will come into picture. So not only that, when it comes to RDBMS, you have something called constraints. Referential constraints, integrity constraints like primary key, foreign key, a lot of things are there. And again, like I said, when I had to join two tables or more tables, your situation would be more pathetic. Yeah. So big data is something which cannot be stored or analyzed in RDBMS. Then what's the alternative? There are many other big data products, like there is something called MongoDB, there is something called Cassandra, there is something called Vertica, and there is something called Hadoop. Okay, when there are these many big data products, yeah, to store and analyze the data, which one among this is best? Of course, every each and every every component I have listed here has its own features and its own pros and cons. But I should say Hadoop is best among them. Why? Why Hadoop is best among other big data products available? Not only that the fact of it is technically proven by most of the social networking giants and other banking companies, it's not only because of that. What is underlying in Hadoop is something which we have to understand. So in order to understand that, let's look at the definition of Hadoop. Hadoop is basically a framework. Yeah, Hadoop is a framework. In framework, you'll have framework is nothing but you have a lot of components, and when you combine them together, you call that as a framework. And in a framework, you can dismantle or you can take off any of the component, or you can put any number of components. That's the advantage of a framework. So Hadoop is a framework that is written in Java, which allows distributed processing of large data sets across clusters of computers using simple programming models. Okay, I'll come back to this definition, but before that I wanted to understand two concepts here. One is distributed processing of large data sets across clusters of computers. Yeah, so when you say that, I call that as Hadoop Distributed File System, HDFS. Okay, and there is something else called simple programming models. I'll call that as MapReduce, MR. So these are two technical jargons you got to understand before understanding the definition of Hadoop. Yeah. So what is Hadoop Distributed File System and what is MapReduce? To explain that, let me quote an very general example. Okay, I have a client who had given me an requirement of taking some 100 bricks from one place to another place. Yeah, so I had to take some 100 bricks from one place to another place. So for this particular work, I have recruited a person or a worker to lift this 100 bricks from one place to another. But this guy, whomever I had recruited, had told me, boss, I can lift one brick per 1 minute. So I will ideally take 100 minutes to lift all these bricks. So that's what that's what the person whom I had recruited had told me. But my client want to complete this in 10 minutes. But I have no other go. This guy can complete only in 100 minutes. So what I did was, I have recruited 9 more people. Totally I have 10 people in my hand, and I have asked them to lift 10 bricks from one place to another place. So ideally, each of this person will take 10 minutes. So my task will be done in 10 minutes when they are working parallelly. So what I have done here is, I have distributed the work among different persons. I have made them to work parallelly, and finally I am able to achieve the result. This is what I have done. Distribution is something I have done, and parallelization is something which I have done. Yeah. So what is Hadoop Distributed File System? Hadoop Distributed File System is something called a group of file systems which allows you to perform distributed processing. You can you can distribute your processing among different file systems. Let's consider these are 10 different file systems. Okay, these are allowing distributed processing of your data sets. Then I call this as HDFS. Okay, so Hadoop distributed file system is a group of file systems which allows distributed processing of your large data sets. So that's how I am able to do the work in a distributed manner. So when I have 10 people, when I made them to work parallelly, or when I distribute the work among these 10 people, my underlying file system, which is nothing but HDFS, is supporting this distribution because it has a lot of file systems and it allows each of its file system to work parallelly. But there is another catch here. Yes, we are good that we have distributed the work among different file systems. But what is the mechanism you had followed to distribute the work? Who will split the work? Because when you have 10 people and you have 100 bricks, you'll have to tell to first person, hey, you take this 10 bricks. Second person, hey, you take this 10 bricks. Like that you have to tell to all the 10 people. So who is taking this pain of splitting the work? We know what is HDFS is, but in order to make HDFS work parallelly, you should split the work, right? So that will be taken care by your mapper. Mapper is something, in your MapReduce, mapper is something which splits your work among different file systems. Okay, it has its own logic developed by the developer. Developer is someone who will write your MapReduce logic, probably in Java or in Python or in Perl, whatever it might be. So mapper is something which splits your work. Finally, when this 10 persons has done the work, I cannot ask my client, hey, your piece of work is present over there, your piece of work is present over here, your piece of work is present over there. I cannot tell that because I'm using 10 different people or 10 different file systems. That doesn't mean that I can go and ask my client to pick his work from different places. Rather, I'll have to concatenate or combine the result and give it to him. So that will be done by your reducer. Reducer is something which will collect the intermediary results done by the different file systems and give it back to the client. Yeah, so this is what HDFS, mapper and reducer on a high level. Okay, you guys have any questions on this? Anyone? Lavanya, Giridhar, Navita, Sahitya, anyone?
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, great. 1 second. Okay, I'll just go back to the definition of Hadoop. Yeah, so now that we understood what HDFS is and what MapReduce is, at least on high level, so let's go back and discuss what is Hadoop. Like I said, Hadoop is a framework which allows distributed processing of large data sets across clusters of computers using simple programming models. So Hadoop is a framework which allows distributed processing of large data sets across clusters of computers called Hadoop Distributed File System using simple programming models called MapReduce. That's the whole definition of Hadoop. But there is another hidden concept that we are still yet to discuss, which is nothing but cluster. Once we are done with what cluster is, then we are good with Hadoop definition at least. Each and every term of Hadoop definition. Yeah. So what a cluster? What is a cluster? I have a system. I call that as a node. Okay. I have group of systems. I call them as a rack. Okay. When I have a system, I call it as a node. When I have group of nodes, I call that as a rack. When I have group of racks, I'll call that as a cluster. Okay. So cluster is group of racks. Rack is group of nodes. Pretty straightforward. But Each of this rack will be controlled by its own network switch, yeah, and this entire cluster will be controlled by a main switch, main network switch. Okay, and ideally in production scenarios, one of your rack will be located in one physical location and another racks will be located in other different locations. Because let's say that rack 1 is located in North America, rack 2 in South America, rack 3 in probably in Asia Pacific. If something goes wrong with North America due to some natural calamities or something, you still have your rack 2 and rack 3, which will have the entire data of rack 1 replicated here. So even if your rack 1 goes down, you still have your business running, because you have your rack 2 and rack 3 which would be up and running. So this is what called as business continuity plan. Yeah, though you have your one of your rack gone down, you have still some other racks located in some other physical locations which are up and running. So you don't need to bother about it. Yeah, when the rack 1 comes back, of course it will join the cluster and it resumes the operation and your cluster behave normally. Though you have your rack 1, you don't have your rack 1. Okay, so cluster is group of racks, rack is group of nodes. Okay, so this is what I wanted to discuss as part of this demo session. If you have any questions till now, probably you can ask me, else I'll go ahead and explain about my course content and what I would be dealing with as part of this course. Please unmute yourself and ask me if you have any questions whatsoever, and whatever we had discussed so far, or at least on Hadoop, whatever high level questions you have.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, of course, please go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned that the data is distributed over different racks or clusters.
Correct.
So like as you mentioned, like one of the rack goes down, it's replicated and stuff. So like suppose part of the like it's distributed in such a way that part of the message is stored in rack 1 and part of it in rack 2 and part of it in rack 3. So in that case, how is it recovered? Like, I mean.
Okay, that's a good question basically. But see, when you have part of your data in rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, so you are asking that when you have your data in part of your data in rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, how will you recover when your rack 1 goes down? Is that what you are asking?
Yeah.
Okay. There is a concept called replication in Hadoop. Okay. You will have by default three-way replication. For example, if you have a file called file1.txt, and if your file is split into 3 parts, let's say that part 1, part 2, part 3. So this part 1, part 2, part 3 might be copied in 2 different racks. Let's say part 1 is copied in rack 1 and part 2 and part 3 is copied in rack 2. But there is a concept called replication in Hadoop. What happens is, though your data is there in one rack, it will copy the data into 2 other racks as well. Okay, your part 1 will be copied to rack 2 and rack 3 as well. So what happens is, even if your rack 1 goes down, you still have your data in rack 2 and rack 3, so you don't need to bother about your data.
Okay. So when retrieving the data, like, so which rack does it go to?
Okay, it purely depends upon which of the, there are many concepts to be considered here. Okay, we have something called rack awareness and all the stuff, but I don't want to go in detail right now. But to answer on a high level, when you have to retrieve your data, first thing that comes into picture is, the location where the request is coming. If the request is coming from North America, your Hadoop will try to fetch the data from a rack that is closer to that particular North America, so that network traffic will be reduced. Because when your request is from something called North America, and when your data is being transferred from North America itself, your network traffic will be very less, so that your performance will be increased. And that is the first criteria that will be taken care. And second criteria is the free data nodes. Of course, if your request is coming from North America, But if your data nodes in your rack 1, which is located in North America, are busy, so we cannot do anything. We can obviously go to, we'll have to obviously go to some other racks. So from where the data will be fetched is something which will be dependent on many factors like rack awareness and data availability and nodes availability. Okay.
Okay.
On a high level, please remember that it purely depends on your at least on your data on your nodes availability.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay. Probably I'll walk you through the course contents which I'll be dealing with. Yeah. So these are my course contents. So first I'll start with Hadoop architecture. I'll talk about all the networking concepts of Hadoop architecture. I mean, what are the demands that are available in Hadoop? How does they communicate with each other? Yeah, all the underlying architecture of Hadoop is something which I'm gonna discuss as part of my course. That's where we start with. So that will go for 2 to 3 days, probably 3 days, obviously. And after that, I'll be talking about something called Linux basics. All the Linux basic commands I'll be discussing for 1 to 1.5 session. Why I'm discussing Linux session is there are 2 important reasons. First important reason is I'll make you install your sudo-mode cluster. I'll make you set up your own cluster. So in order to set up your own cluster, you got to have knowledge on Linux or Unix, at least on the basics of Linux and basics. Sorry, at least on knowledge of Linux or Unix basics. So I'll walk you through Linux commands before starting with the setup of your sudo-mode cluster. And I'll show you how to set up a sudo-mode cluster, and I'll be providing you the documentation for that. Okay, so you can use this document as your reference, and you can go ahead and install your cluster on your own. Yeah, and then once we are done with the sudo-mode cluster, we'll have to practice HDFS commands, and there are a lot of custom driven scripts, because when you have to do some business requirement or you have to do some operation, you cannot do it manually. Rather, you'll have to write a script and make it automated. So what sort of scripts we have to write in HDFS is something which I'll be discussing, and all the commands that are available in HDFS is something I'll be discussing. So that's again another reason why I'm talking about Linux. So after we discuss about HDFS commands and custom driven scripts of HDFS, then we'll talk about something called Core Java. At least for one session I'll talk about Core Java, because Core Java is mandatory for you to understand MapReduce. Yeah. So once I'm done with brushing of Core Java knowledge, I'll be talking about MapReduce in Java. Yeah. I'll talk about different phases of MapReduce like mapper, reducer, combiner, partitioner, how sorting happens, splitting happens, and how shuffling happens. Everything I'll be discussing. Yeah. But from here on, at the end of every section, you'll be having a case study. You'll have to work on a case study basically. Let's say it's a MapReduce in Java. So at the end of MapReduce, you got to work on a case study. What I do is I'll give you an abstract file which talks about what you'll have to do. I'll give you an input file, okay? But I'll never talk about how to work on this particular case study. It's you who have to find out the logic and you have to implement that. I'll give you 4 to 5 days of time, and after 5 days, you got to come back and show me the result. Then I'll discuss about the source code, how you can implement each of the case study. It's not only pertaining to MapReduce, but every section, this is how it happens. I'll give you an input file, I'll give you an abstract. Using this both, you will have to work on the case study. Yeah, and soon after MapReduce, I mean, we'll discuss in very detail about MapReduce. We'll discuss to an extent of image analytics on Hadoop. using MapReduce. When I say image analytics, it's purely unstructured data. So how do we deal with unstructured data is something which we are going to concentrate as part of this course. Yeah, and later on I'll be talking about Python. At least I'll take a 2-hour session on Python, because Python also plays a very key role in Hadoop. Because you can write, I mean, probably if you are not a Java developer, you may not be able to write your MapReduce code in Java. So that does not mean that you are not fit for Hadoop. You have still other programming languages available, like you have Python, Perl, Shell. Yeah, you can do your MapReduce coding in any of the high-level programming languages available. But after Java, Python is most preferred programming language. So I'll talk about Python. Yeah, and I'll show you how to write MapReduce using Python using a concept called streaming. Yeah, this is what I'll discuss. But though many of the organizations does not use Python for MapReduce, what is the point of discussing Python is, there is another main reason why I'm discussing Python. I'll let you know. Then soon after MapReduce section in detail of, yeah, what I'll do is I'll discuss about the Hadoop ecosystem components called Hive. I'll start with Hive. I'll talk about the Hive architecture to a level of Hive UDFs. UDFs is nothing but user-defined function. Okay. I mean, why I am discussing about Python is, this is the point. In many of the organizations, you have to write UDFs. UDFs is nothing but user-defined function. And Python is the most preferred programming language for writing an UDF. So that's why I talk about Python when I am talking about MapReduce. Okay, even when I am talking about MapReduce in Python, you will have a case study to work on. Like I said, at the end of every section, you will have a case study. Again, I'll give you an input file. I'll tell you what to do, and it's you who have to decide how to do. And when I discuss about Hive, yeah, after Hive and all the commands of Hive, again I'll just give you a case study on case study on Hive. So this is how again a POC on Hive would look like. Like I said, it will tell you, or it will give you all the details, what you'll have to do, how to create a data set and everything. Yeah, I'll also give you a huge data set, right? It contains the data. So using this, probably it might take some time to open because it's a few size, right? So I'll give you an abstract and an input file to work on the particular case study, and it goes. Yeah. So this is my input file. I have different scenarios to be worked on. So once you work on these, all these particular scenarios, whatever I listed here, you should get real-time practical exposure of how the things happens in real time, and what are all the things that you got to take care when you are developing your queries for MapReduce programs is something which I'll be discussing when I am discussing about my source code. Yeah. Next part is I'll discuss about some after Hive. I'll discuss about Pig. Pig is again a very widely used ecosystem component of Hadoop. I'll tell all the commands of Pig, and again I'll talk about UDFs in Pig, which is in Java and as well as in Python. Yeah, and again at the end of Pig, you'll be given a case study on Pig as well. Yeah, probably this is something, but weblog analysis. How do you do web analytics using Pig is something which I'll be providing you. So I'll give you an abstract again. Yeah, it will clearly explain what you have to do, right? And then I'll be giving you an input file, like an weblog file is something which I'm gonna give you. So using that, you got to work on this particular case study as well. And similarly, we have other ecosystem components like Scoop. I'll discuss about all the available commands of Scoop. Yeah, but see, at the end of every section, you will be given a documentation of all the commands basically. So what commands we are discussing is something I'll be providing you. You can use that particular commands, and I mean you can refer to this commands and you can work on it later on. Yeah, it's for every section. At the end there will be a detailed documentation for everything basically. So you can refer to that and you can practice. I mean you can do a lab of each and every section. And we have Scoop, we have Flume, we have Uzi, Yarn, and we have another important thing called HBase. These are all the eco components that I'm going to discuss in my course of 40 days. Yeah, it's basically a 40-hour session. Yeah, during this 40 hours, I'll be discussing about all these concepts. Yeah, I'll have my day-wise session plan, which we'll have as a reference, and this is how we proceed with our session. Basically, we'll take it as an driver thing, and we'll proceed for the 40 hours. Okay. So this is what I wanted to walk you through. If you have any questions, probably you can raise. I mean, you can just ask me. I can answer your questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So are we talking about developer and administrator roles here, or is this course content is about just developer?
Yes, I should say it's 80% of the developer course and 20% is something admin concepts I would be covering because I'll be talking about the Cloudera manager. Yeah, but I should say only 10 to 15% of the admin course will be covered, and rest all will be the developer course. 85 to 90% would be the developer course.
Okay. And one more question is, when we talk about big data, right, so we always give an example of social media network, be it Facebook or Twitter or any other social network. So what are the other organizations can go for big data?
Basically, I work for a bank called Bank of America.
Okay.
We deal with big data, I mean Hadoop basically, because we'll have a lot of transaction data. Because I basically work for credit card analytics. Okay, so when you do a transaction, that's a data. So at the end of the day, millions of the customers will be doing the transactions. So everything will be data. So combinedly, I call it as the big data, and we do deploy that or inject that onto HDFS, and we do our analytics. That's one part. So it's not only Bank of America. Let's take any bank like Deutsche Bank or JP Morgan, like investment bankers like JP Morgan or Deutsche Bank, or you have Citibank. Everyone is implementing Hadoop. That's into your banking domain. When you are talking about telecom domain, you have British Telecom, which is predominantly working on Hadoop, because all the call logs and all the call related data is something which they'll be dumping it into HDFS, and they will be doing their own sort of analytics for increasing their business. Okay, that's again into telecom. You have finance related. Everyone has Hadoop right now, starting from small scale sectors to the large scale sectors, to increase their business basically. It's not only social networking sites, because people quote social networking sites because it will be easy to take that into the people's mind. Only that is the reason behind that. But apart from that, most of the organizations are using Hadoop across all the domains.
Okay, because I'm kind of confused, because everybody, when I heard demo, everybody was taking an example of social media network. Now I started thinking that maybe social media network or only those organizations will go for Hadoop. So if that is the case, then what are the opportunities if I get into Hadoop?
But your question got clarified, or you still have questions on this?
Yeah, now, yes, I'm clear. Thank you.
No problem.
And may I know your experience on Hadoop?
My total experience on Hadoop is, I should say, 2 years. Currently, I'm working as a data scientist on credit cards of Bank of America. We do visual analytics as well as the data analytics. When I say visual analytics, we do use a visual analytic tool like Tableau.
Okay.
So we are into core analytics of Hadoop for the past 2 years.
Okay. And one last question before I wind up.
Please.
So I know you mentioned in the beginning of this demo that why Hadoop is better than any other.
Of course.
So my understanding is that because Hadoop uses the distributed file system, whereas other companies doesn't use the distributed file system.
No, I don't say that. When you are talking about something called Vertica or Cassandra or MongoDB, everything is distributed, I should say. But there is something important more than distributed, which is nothing but MapReduce. Okay. MapReduce is something which is there in Hadoop, but not in Vertica or MongoDB or Cassandra or many of the big data tools. That's where Hadoop has got an advantage. But again, like I said, each and everything has its own advantage. Like few organizations prefer MongoDB or Cassandra. They may not take Hadoop because Hadoop may not be fit for their particular business requirement, I should say. So it's not that one is great and one is less, but Hadoop is most widely used because most of the use cases can be utilized or can be driven through Hadoop.
Okay.
Yeah, because
And
it has a lot of flexibility.
Okay, and other systems are also open source like Hadoop, or they have to have license?
No, MongoDB is something. It's not an open source, I believe. Cassandra is an open source, as far as I know. Vertica is not an open source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that is making organizations to go for Hadoop.
No, even not that. That does not play a very key role in choosing that particular tools. What plays key role is which is best fit for their particular use case. That's the thing that plays a key role.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
No problem. Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
can you? Yeah, actually, I'm from ETL background. So how much ETL background is kind of beneficial in Hadoop? Like, is there any
Okay.
connection
That's
with
a
any
good-
ETL tool?
That's a very good question, basically. See, apart from MapReduce, rest all the things are ETL. Okay, MapReduce is a purely programming thing. But when you're talking about Hive, Pig, Scoop, or Flume, everything is something like an ETL processing. Because you extract your data using Scoop or Flume, you transform your data using Pig, okay, and you load the data into Hive. This is where your ETL concept is. I have told you I'm gonna cover something like Hive, Pig, HBase, Scoop, Flume, yeah, Oozie. Friends, I'm gonna cover. But apart from, among this, I've answered when you are talking about ETL, right? I've answered about Scoop and Flume because these extract the data from different file systems or different upstreams or different databases. I use Pig for transformation of the data. I use Hive for the loading of the data and for ad hoc analysis. I've covered 4 important ecosystem components of Hadoop which would do the ETL processing. And apart from MapReduce, you'll have to have at least basic knowledge on ETL so that you'll be pretty much comfortable with Hadoop and your ETL experience is definitely gonna be an add-on.
So how much SQL plays a role in Hadoop?
I should say it plays a key role like 20 to 30% of your total analytics, because once you dump your data, you got to do your analytics on Hive basically, or there are other things. I'm just taking you on a high level. When it comes to Hive, obviously 20 to 30% of your analytics will be done through your SQL queries itself.
So Hive is some kind of ad hoc query tool like SQL Developer or Toad?
it's a database or a data warehouse running on top of Hadoop. Yes, you do your ad hoc analytics of your big data using Hive.
Okay. Okay. So because I don't have any kind of Java or Python background, so
That's
I
correct.
don't know.
That's why I told if you don't have a Java experience, that's fine. You can go with Python. Even if you don't have Python experience, that's pretty much fine. You can go with ecosystem components of Hadoop. Because Hadoop is something, see, whatever you can do it using MapReduce, I can do it with Hive and Pig. But there are a few scenarios wherein you got to do it particularly in MapReduce. That's where you'll have to learn core Java.
Okay. So one more question, the last one from my side.
Please go ahead, no problem.
Is there any connection with the ETL tools as well, like Informatica, DataStage, whatever it is? Is there this ecosystem? Is there any kind of ETL tool existing there or no?
No, you don't have any tools as such here. You don't have any connectivity to ATL, I mean Informatica or DataStage because I personally, I'm a Perl developer. Okay, basically, and our project basically deals with the data transformations using DataStage and Informatica, but our underlying storage would be Unix or databases like DB2 or Vertica. So that's where we pick the data from, but we don't have any connectivity to Informatica or DataStage as such. So
Okay.
did that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Is it kind of data? I mean, it's purely a database. Like big data is purely a database, so there is
No,
no.
no sir, no sir. It's not a database. I should say Hadoop is the combination of Hadoop distributed file system and MapReduce. That's it. I don't call it as a database. I don't call it as any other thing like an ETL tool or something. It's a framework which is a combination of your Hadoop distributed file system and MapReduce. Though you are writing your Hive queries or Pig commands, everything runs as a MapReduce in the background. So MapReduce is total about Hadoop.
So it is based on ETL, but it's still not a database. So it has self-contained ETL system then.
Exactly, that's correct. It's a self-contained ETL system, but with a group of few ecosystem components.
Okay. Okay, got you.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys?
I'm good.
No problem. Okay. If you don't have any other questions, probably I'll wind up the session because I had to rush in for another meeting by 7 o'clock. If you have any other questions, you got another 5 minutes to answer the question, else I'll wind up the session for today.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, guys.
May I know your name?
Surya.
Surya. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. This is Simi here. I wanted to ask you if I could get a copy of this demo.
Copy of this demo.
I just came in late, about quite late. So I was wondering if I can just get a copy of
Yeah, probably Satish or Mac. Can you forward the demo, recorded demo to them? Or Simi, I can make it a point that, and I'll ask. Yeah, they are gonna forward you this particular recorded demo. Don't worry. Probably you can have a look at this demo.
All right, fantastic.
Please do it.
Thank you.
Do it to all of us.
Yes, of course. It will be forwarded to all of you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
No problem. So I'm just dropping off from this webinar. If you have any other questions, you can probably discuss with Mac. Yeah. And thank you so much, guys, for your interest in attending this demo. Look forward to see you in the actual session. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.